Air traffic control versus pilots.
Lindbergh 4583, county vehicles are looking for more information on the fuel leak. I'm not sure if you're able to do that right now.
Coming up. Hey 7-4 crew, welcome back. If you don't know me, my name's Kelsey. I'm a 747 pilot. My channel, 7-4 Gear, is all about aviation. Now what's interesting about this video is it's a fuel leak, and what is interesting for me is I had literally this exact same type of fuel leak on this exact same type of plane, which I'll explain to you a little bit more once we get into the video. Alright, let's get into it.
Now we're going direct to the airport, Lindbergh 4583.
Roger, Lindbergh 4583, flying in 280, vector for the ILS runway 4, approach at Rochester, descend and maintain 3000.
Alright, 280 down at 3000 for the ILS 4, Lindbergh 4583.
Lindbergh 4583, understand that Cleveland did call me there. Can you just give me, we're going to just give a heads up there. Can you give me your souls on board and fuel remaining at this time?
Yeah, stand by.
Souls on board is 54 people, fuel on board is 2100 currently.
And Roger, and it's a fuel leak is what you got?
Affirmative.
Roger.
Hey, approach Lindbergh 4583, we're going to need as quick as approach as you can get us.
Lindbergh 4583, Roger. Fast as you get down, I'll have you on final.
Alright, we're dropping her down Lindbergh 4583.
Lindbergh 4583, just planning. If I turn you a 20-mile final, it should be about 9,000 feet. Is that okay, straight in from there then?
Yeah, should be fine, Lindbergh 4583.
Roger.
In the first part of this clip, it sounds like the pilots may be rattled because of the fuel leak that's going on and the emergency that they're dealing with and the rapid descent that they're doing. But that pilot that's talking on the radio is also the one who's typically going to be responsible for loading everything into the flight computer so that way the plane knows where it's going and what it needs to do. Listen here.
Now we're going direct to the airport, Lindbergh 4583.
So in this case, you have one pilot who's dealing with flying the plane. That's their only priority. Flying the plane, getting it down, getting everything set up, being aware of what's going on. And then you have the other pilot who's task saturated. He's handling the radios and loading everything that's going on into the computer to let the plane know where it needs to go. I had very similar situation, this, not a fuel leak, but I was flying into Ohio. The airport we were going to got closed down. Our alternate airport got closed down, and the backup to that one that we thought we'd go to got closed down. They all kept getting closed down from ice. There was like an ice storm in the area of Ohio, and they all started shutting down. So then they said, hey, this one just opened up, you can go land there. So we were basically right on top of that airport, and we decided, let's get down right away. So, of course, I was the one that was handling the radio, so I probably sounded a little bit like this guy as we started to do this rapid descent because I was having to clear everything out in the computer, let the plane know, hey, we're not going to this airport anymore, we're going here, which was not anywhere in our flight plan. So I had to get everything set for that airport, get the numbers, all the stuff that you need to do before a flight that normally you have 30, 45 minutes to an hour to plan for. I had to get it in about 10 or 15 minutes while running the radios, while letting the flight attendants know. There was a lot going on. So when you have a lot going on in your life, let's say you're running around and doing a bunch of errands and somebody calls you to say, hey, I got a question, you're going to be talking really fast. It's not that you're rattled, it's just that your mental speed, the speed that you're mentally going at is going to be going a lot faster, so you're going to be talking faster, and so it's going to sound like, oh my gosh, there's a lot going on. So now that you know the workload that this pilot is dealing with, you can hear that he's not rattled, he's just got a lot that's on his plate that he's trying to get done very quickly. Listen again to what he sounds like.
Now we're going direct to the airport, Lindbergh 4583.
I don't know how these pilots were alerted to the fact that this fuel imbalance was taking place. Historically speaking, through research, they found that humans are bad monitors of things, meaning that as pilots, while we're up there and we have a lot of different things, we're typically bad at monitoring those things. So what they've done is they set up parameters. So on this plane, maybe let's say it's 300 pounds. Once you have one side, one fuel tank or one side of the fuels is 300 pounds heavier or lighter than the other side, it will make a noise or put type an alert or something up there to let the pilots know, hey, this is a problem. And what they'll do is they'll start going through a checklist to figure out what is causing this imbalance. And as you can see, this flight was going to be very short, from Newark to Buffalo, and roughly an hour-long flight. And while it isn't economical for the airlines to put a bunch of extra fuel on a plane, even though this plane probably could have held a lot more than it had on the aircraft at that time, they're not going to put a bunch of extra fuel on there in the event that the 1 in a million case that you're going to have a fuel leak. So you don't have a lot of extra time to play with here on a short flight like that. If you have a very aggressive fuel leak, it's going to be going out very quickly. Listen here as the pilots ask for the quickest approach they can get.
Hey, approach number 4583, we're going to need as quickest approach as you can give us.
Now the issue you're going to have as the pilot is that, one, you don't know when the fuel leak started. How bad is it? Is it getting worse? Where's it coming from? There's a lot of things that you don't know, and there's no way for you to find out to see exactly what's causing the situation. So you're going to want to get on the ground as quickly as possible. And I know what you're thinking. What if the pilots didn't catch this? What if they didn't notice a fuel imbalance? What if the plane just ran out of fuel all the way? I know a lot of you are nervous flyers that watch this channel, so let me explain to you something real quick. To make things simple, imagine that this left side is all one big tank and this right side is also one big tank. And you can push fuel back and forth, but you can also typically isolate one side so that the fuel doesn't go from one side to the other. So if they hadn't noticed it in time and they hadn't hurried up to get on the ground, and that fuel, let's just say something was broken and the sensor didn't notice that that fuel leak had happened there, you would obviously lose that engine. That would be a problem. And now the pilots are going to be racing to get on the ground. While they're doing that, they're going to notice, wait, there's no fuel on this side. So they're going to figure it out one way or the other, and they're going to get on the ground quickly. Now, you heard the pilots and the controllers talking about doing an ILS system. So there's two ways you can land at an airport. You can do a visual, which means you look for the runway and then you go land there, or you do an ILS, which is an instrument landing system. Basically, it's the way that pilots land through bad visibility. So they were on an ILS. Why? I personally think it's better to do what they decided to do here, which is fly an ILS, unless there's something that's minutes or seconds really matter. In this case, it's not really a big deal. If you lost that engine, well, then you'd land with one engine, and pilots train for that all the time. But you don't want to mess up and have to do a go around, and now you're burning a lot of extra gas and you're doing it on one engine. So by doing an ILS and keeping everything as normal as possible, you can use the autopilot. You can have a third person, the autopilot, helping you, and everybody can kind of take a broader picture back and see everything that's going on. If you're doing a visual, the other pilot is task saturated, running the radios and doing all the other things, getting the numbers, which may be last minute in this situation. Then what you have is basically one guy who's flying, one guy who's kind of out of the game. But if you leave the autopilot on and you do an ILS, you can have the autopilot line the plane up on the runway. It will start taking the plane down. You can do a lot of different things to help relieve the amount of pressure that's going to be on these pilots in this situation. So in an ILS system, the plane will actually intercept the runway and start going down towards the runway without the pilots manually controlling the aircraft. The great thing about having these regional pilots that are doing the flying here is they know the limits of their aircraft better than a lot of pilots do. They're doing 2, 3, 4 flights in a day, which means they're getting possibly 2 landings in a given day. I may only get 2 landings in a month on the 747, so they have a lot of repetition in getting their aircraft configured and ready for landing. And so that lets them know really how far they can push their limits of their aircraft. When I'm flying, maybe I haven't had a landing in a whole month and now it's my turn to land. So I'm going to be more conservative with the decisions that I'm going to make. Now granted, I have a lot more flight time and flight experience than most regional pilots do, so it makes it so I have maybe some more bags of tricks to go into versus them. Luckily, they get a lot of experience, so it allows them to really be able to push their plane to the limit. Now, we do have something on the 747 that they will do sometimes is we'll take off, this is in a simulator, and they'll simulate a cargo fire. And in that situation where really seconds matter, if you don't get the plane on the ground, you could be in a lot of trouble. In those cases, and I love doing it, you might be doing 330 miles or 330 knots as you go in the pattern to try to get on the ground again. So that's a lot of fun, and that's times where I really get to challenge myself. But typically speaking, on our normal day-to-day flying, that's not the type of flying that we're doing. We're typically flying 2 places, and it's very controlled and configured, and they're not trying to make a 747 do real tight turns and things like that. They'll put us out a long ways, and they treat us like gentlemen. My point in saying that is these guys are really doing a great job as far as for getting everything configured and getting on the ground very quickly. All right, listen what happens next as they get ready for landing.
Number 4583, ILS 4.
Number 4583, tower 1010 at 8, runway 4, clear to land.
4 clear on number 4583.
And yes, he is the first one to land 900 miles out on runway 4.
He is the next to land. We have permission to follow him.
Affirmative. Number 4583, county vehicles are looking for more information on the fuel leak. I'm not sure if you're able to do that right now.
I don't really know. It's just the left wing. We're burning way more gas. We'll be on the ground here in a couple minutes, but it was off the left wing, suspected left wing.
Over that, thank you. Number 4583. 4583, I need you to stop and hold position on runway 4.
We'll stop and hold here on 4583.
Now you heard the fireman ask for permission to follow the plane down the runway. Listen here.
He is the next to land. We have permission to follow him.
Something that is not common knowledge to a lot of people is that when planes land and there's fire trucks are going to be involved, usually what they'll do is they'll start at the beginning of the runway, and then as soon as you touch down, they'll come in behind you and they'll chase you down the runway. Because let's say they plan on meeting you halfway down the runway and they think that you've stopped, but you haven't stopped, and they've decided to come out on the runway to help with whatever situation is going on, but you hadn't stopped, and now they're on the runway. Now it's harder for them to get out of the way. So if they chase you down the runway, then they're always going to have you in front of them, and they can really focus on driving as fast as they want and seeing everything that's going on. The problem is the firemen, like everybody else, want extra information.
Number 4583, county vehicles are looking for more information on the fuel leak. I'm not sure if you're able to do that right now.
I will say this controller sounds very experienced in asking the pilots for more additional information because they realize the pilots are very busy with everything they got going on right now. I think it would be great training for controllers if they could sit in a simulator with the pilots when they do a go-around and during an emergency, so they can see just how busy we are while the controllers are asking different questions or trying to get different pieces of information. Because there is a lot that's happening there, but you don't hear the pilots saying anything, so you may not know just how much of a workload is going on. So I think that'd be something that'd be really cool to see maybe in the future, where controllers sit in during pilots when we're doing an unexpected go-around or when we're dealing with an emergency, so they can see everything that's going on, so they have a better idea and a better understanding of what's happening with us up there. But this controller sounded like, hey, if you can give me some more information, great. If not, it's not a big deal. And what the pilots are saying is, hey, we're going to be on the ground in a few minutes. You can get that information later. Listen here.
I don't really know. It's just the left wing. We're burning way more gas. We'll be on the ground here in a couple minutes.
Now, remember earlier I told you I had a very similar experience where I had a fuel leak, and it was actually leaking from the exact same spot that you can see here in the video when these guys are flying. We were actually getting ready to push back, and the guy who was operating the tug calls up and said, wow, you guys sure have a lot of water coming out of your left engine. And I said, what, water? He goes, yeah, you got a lot of water coming out of your left engine. And I said, what do you mean we got a lot of water coming out of the engine? He goes, yeah, water, you got water, a lot of water coming out of your engine. And I was thinking, it's a clear day, and even if it wasn't, there shouldn't be water pouring out of the engine. So I said, hold on a second. So I jumped up, went up, opened the door, looked out, and saw water fuel gushing out of the pylon right here. This is the pylon that connects the engine, and the fuel was just spraying out of it right here. Now, once I realized what was going on, we shut off all the fuel boost pumps, which is pushing the fuel towards the engines, and the water, the fuel, stopped pouring out of the plane. We were able to hook the jet bridge up and get everybody off the plane, and that was basically the end of our day. But had that tug driver not informed us what was going on, we could have, hopefully not, but we could have taken off with that exact same problem that these pilots had, and we maybe wouldn't have known. If another pilot hadn't said anything, or air traffic control, or somebody on the ground hadn't said anything, we probably wouldn't notice that minor amount of fuel that was pouring out there. But once you start flying, as time goes on, that fuel leak gets more and more noticeable until you have an imbalance in the fuel. That's when the plane alerts you, hey, there's a problem. And now I could have had literally this exact same situation had the tug driver not mentioned it to us. So it just goes to show you what a team effort it is in aviation. But something when I was a newer pilot I never thought about was this.
Number 4583, I need you to stop and hold position on runway 4.
Now, when I was doing training on the 747, one of the things that I had was a situation with fire on the plane. I was a new pilot on the 747. We were doing my initial training. And as we were landing, I set the auto brakes to 3. If you aren't familiar, auto brakes are something that the CRJ does not have, but the 747 does have. It basically allows the plane to stop more efficiently. And so I had set 3, which is the normal setting, and I did that because that's the normal default setting that we set. So the instructor goes, hey Kelsey, I got a question. Why did you set 3? And I already knew that he had set a trap and I had walked right into it. And I said, well, 3 because that's the normal setting, so I wanted to keep everything as normal as possible. That was kind of my answer. And he said, okay, so you just want to have the fire trucks chase you an extra couple thousand feet down the runway? And then it hit me. Oh, he's saying that because if I set, let's say 5 or something with a much more aggressive stopping distance, then the fire trucks wouldn't have to chase me as far down the runway because we're doing maybe 150, 160 knots down the runway, and a fire truck isn't going to be going that fast. So he said, you want them to put you out right away, or you want them to wait a couple minutes till they get to you to put the fire out? I said, oh, okay, that makes sense. And why that's relevant for this story is these pilots, I think, were just kind of coasting it down the runway because the controller said, hey, go ahead and stop. And it's normal that you're not going to want to stomp on the brakes. You're kind of like happy to be on the ground. Okay, cool, what's going on? And trying to assess the situation. But definitely, if you have a situation like that where there's fire trucks that are involved, you're going to want to stop as quickly as possible so that way the fire trucks can get to you and they can assess the situation. Or if there is a fire, they can put it out before it turns into something. If you're rolling all the way down the runway, it's going to take them longer to get to you. So that was something I learned and something I thought I would share with you. So if you're ever flying in and you're having fuel pouring out of your plane like this, make sure you stomp on the brakes as quickly as possible. I know some of you RJ pilots love to slam on the brakes. I know that I did it too. Just like butter that landing and then just slam the brakes to get that early taxiway. So I know you know how to stomp those brakes. I would stop quickly, get the fire trucks to you, and then you can resolve it from there. Otherwise, I think these pilots actually did a great job. They handled everything very quickly, got down on the ground very quick. They were coordinating with air traffic control, letting them know the information for the fire trucks, and they did everything, it sounded like, in a very professional way to safely get on the ground. So I think they did a great job.
American 58, gate 157, occupied. Taxi, hotel, hold short of taxiway, Quebec, this frequency.
Hotel to Quebec, this frequency, American 58.
American 58, I wanted you short of Quebec on hotel, so I want you to go back to the left now. On hotel, and then just go to the end at Bravo 17, hold short of runway 25 right.
We would have done it if you would have said it.
Say again?
I said we would have done that if you would have said it.
This is taking place here in LAX. This is a view of LAX, and then this is the section where this is actually taking place. The plane was supposed to go down hotel here and hold short of Quebec. Listen here what the controller says and the pilots read back.
American 58, gate 157, occupied. Taxi, hotel, hold short of taxiway, Quebec, this frequency.
Hotel to Quebec, this frequency, American 58.
But what I think happens here is the pilot actually is planning to cross the runway because he wants to get over to the terminal section of the airport. You see here, this is the terminal area where the planes actually park that have passengers. And so they're planning to go to this area. And so they think, oh, we're just going to cross here. But you may not have noticed at the start of the clip, the controller said, hey, your gate is occupied, which means he doesn't have a place to park that plane. So he has to start working out a place to put them until their gate actually opens up. Listen here.
American 58, gate 157, occupied.
Now sometimes you'll have controllers talk too fast and the pilots are unable to track what's going on when things go outside of the normal, like their gate's occupied. Now this controller, I think, is talking at a very normal speed and very calm and very clear what he's saying. He's not giving too many instructions at once, like you will see sometimes at some airports. I'm speaking to you, JFK and Newark and I guess Houston sometimes with your double taxiways. Those controllers, they know that airport so well, but it may only be an airport that I go to once a year. So I may not know it that well. So they start rattling off, do this, do this, do this, do this, and contact this frequency. It's overwhelming. Yeah, it's easy for them and they're saying it really quick, but it's overwhelming for me because, hey, I'm not used to going there. So sometimes if it's different outside the norm, then it can be a problem. But that's not what's going on here. He tells them that he wants them to go to the left because I think they're starting to 45-degree angle here towards the runway on Quebec. And he wanted them to hold short of Quebec, I'm guessing because he had another plane that he wanted to cross there in front of them because their gate was occupied. That's my guess. I don't know, I'm not a mind reader. And as you know, I try to make some of these videos funny at the end. So this is a setup because the end of this is pretty funny.
What did I give you?
No, I'm just saying we would have fell short of the line if you would have asked us to do so.
Okay, what did I issue you before?
Well, short of Quebec.
American 58. Okay, yeah, I gave you short of Quebec before. What are you doing now? Doesn't look like short of Quebec to me.
Did you want us to go to the end?
Yeah, now I do. Now that you messed up the last instruction, let's try to get this one right. Go to Bravo 17 and hold short of runway 25 right.
No, I didn't mess it up. You did.
I didn't mess it up, you did. Classic pilots. If you like this video, you'll definitely enjoy one of these two up here. I look forward to hearing from you. Until then, keep the blue side up.